Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio, and today I am making the claim that fandoms are to blame for blockbusters getting worse. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I came across this article from Game Rant here that is titled, The Turn Your Brain Off Argument is an Excuse for Accepting Bad Filmmaking. It's okay to enjoy a bad movie, but bad movies have been given one too many free passes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to read this entire article verbatim, and then we'll come back and discuss. Cinema is easily one of the most wide-ranging forms of art. At one time in theaters, there could be raunchy comedy with an ensemble cast contrasted with a drama starring multiple Oscar-nominated actors right next door. It's partly what makes cinema so cool and exciting. But with that said, with all that variety, it can be difficult to navigate through it all to decide what the Friday movie night out will be. That's where film critics like Pauline Kael and Roger Ebert come in. Film critics, much like Kael and Ebert, were the voices of what was at the cinema and whether something was worthwhile or not. It was and still a good gauge for audiences to decide how they're going to spend their money at the movie theater. For the most part, that film criticism has found its way into audiences themselves, with resources like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes having options for audiences to critique cinema for their fellow moviegoers that share the same sensibilities and tastes. But film criticism has seemed to have gone to a much different place compared to the 1970s criticism, especially with the introduction and growth of fandoms. There seems to be much less harsh cinema criticism than the likes of what Kael uttered in The New Yorker, and more interest in cult classics, big blockbusters, celebrity filmmakers, and anything else that really gets mass attention. Criticism has gone mainstream, and that can be good with much more emphasis on fun movie-going experience for families and general audiences. That change in criticism could also have a negative side for cinema, though. With more tolerance and love for reboots, sequels, and blockbusters, there is much less need for originality and objectively good filmmaking, especially with cinematic universes making every movie look exactly the same as the last. Studios have seen that all it takes for $1 billion worldwide is some colorful characters and CGI, and there are the beginnings of the next summer hit. That's why there's always a stream of mediocre movies at the box office that make a decent amount of money and then gets lost on streaming services a few months later. Those are the movies that will often have critics and fans exclaiming that it's enjoyable as a quote-unquote popcorn movie, or really fun if you just quote-unquote just turn your brain off. As long as the audience isn't trying too hard, it's a fun time. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it has filled the box office with some real stinkers that somehow make it to a sequel or are already a sequel. It has created clone after clone and just perpetuates unoriginal filmmaking. It's partly why audiences are seeing a decline in the MCU's quality in the past couple of years. The beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was good with some solid entries and the not wholly formed MCU, but it got even better when it showed promise and continued to grow, with each movie feeling different from the last, much like Captain America: The Winter Soldier being much closer to a spy thriller than an assembly line action movie. But after the MCU peaked at the box office with the big finale of its Infinity Saga, Avengers Endgame, it has fallen off critically. The critical fall of the MCU somewhat mirrors film criticism in fandoms as a whole in a lot of ways. The beginnings were about just making a good movie and doing the best with what they had at the time, but over time it became about what's cool, fun, and just what's going to give the audience a fun ride at the movie theater. There has been an acceptance of bad movies, especially from fandoms, much like in the case of the MCU. With that said, there are many MCU fans out there who have been calling out Disney for the lack of quality of the MCU films as of late. A growing want for fan service of seeing on screen all their favorite things in the comic books, more crossovers, cameos, characters, big epics, and massive stories. But fan service isn't what got franchises started in the first place. It was always an original idea that connected with fans that then turned into more afterward. It has simply become lazy and quite insulting to movie fans. It is the same with comedies, action movies, horror movies, etc. So much anymore just checks off bullet points and plays it safe. Like mentioned before, much of that is studios wanting to make sure that they make that buck. But if it wasn't for the audience and critics alike consistently watching them and giving those movies an excuse as pure entertainment and fun time, the laziness will continue going forward. It is okay to enjoy movies, even bad ones, but when it becomes an excuse for laziness and mediocre hits, it becomes more than something to quote-unquote turn your brain off for. There still can be massive hits that meet the satisfaction of mass audiences, like this past last year's hits Nope and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Both of those had mass audience appeal, but they went beyond the basics and actually did something beyond the checklist. That's why when movies like that come out, audiences get excited because they are one of the few times in a year audiences can go to the cinema and see something new or fresh. If fandoms and critics could get past the mundane, then the box office may see even more of these movies. But until then, they will stay as that couple times a year experience. And here's the perfect example. Circling back to this, right? Let's actually go back to this. A growing want for fan service of seeing on screen all their favorite things in the comic books, more crossovers, cameos, characters, big epics, and massive stories. In regards to fan service, how many people are still talking about Spider-Man No Way Home to this day? Little Spider-Man movie made close to $2 billion back in 2021. And yet, no one really seems to be talking about it, despite them bringing back Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back as their respective Peter Parkers. What's his nuts? Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro. So, yeah, is anyone really talking about Spider-Man No Way Home as of right now? Not really. Nobody's really talking about that. And the point that I want to make with, fandoms have been ruining blockbusters. I want to examine 3 series that I at one point in time actually liked, but because of this, just turn your brain off, brah. Oh, you're just overthinking it, brah. Because of this mindset, these series have just been getting worse and worse. The first one I want to touch on is the the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible franchise, right? I actually did like this series, well, with the exception of Mission Impossible 2, but nobody likes Mission Impossible 2. But still, if you go back and you just rewatch those first 3 Mission Impossible movies, every one of them are different movies. Right? None of them are direct sequels. Even Ghost Protocol, not a direct sequel to Mission Impossible 3. Rogue Nation is also not a direct sequel to Ghost Protocol, despite the fact that they set up the syndicate at the very end of Ghost Protocol. It doesn't matter. You don't need to watch Ghost Protocol in order to watch Rogue Nation. But if you look at the online film criticism, right, for Mission Impossible, what you're gonna see a lot of is, oh, you know what, bro? The first 3 Mission Impossible movies sucked. It didn't start getting good until Mission Impossible 4, until Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So let's jump over to Rotten Tomatoes right here, and here's the critics' consensus for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Stylish, fast-paced, and loaded with gripping set pieces, the 4th Mission Impossible movie is big-budget popcorn entertainment that really works. Right, and this is the point that I want to hammer home with Mission Impossible, right? Especially with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol started a really, really bad trend that is continuing with the Mission Impossible movies, and that is the fact that the Mission Impossible movies are advertising the stunts over the actual story of the movie. And anyone remember this little trailer for Mission Impossible 4?
We're rolling. Ready? We're a mile and a half above the Earth on the tallest building on the planet, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. And we're filming a scene where Tom Cruise is climbing on the outside of the building.
Okay, Tom, we're ready to go.
Stepping out, guys. This is just another day at work on Mission Impossible.
Tom, we're just going to do another one from this angle. This angle is great.
Yes, that was actually marketing material used for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, right? So, again, oh my god, Tom Cruise hanging off the side of the world's tallest building, and he's doing his own stunts. Woo! So then Mission Impossible Rogue Nation comes out. And what is the big stunt advertised for that movie, right? Oh yeah, that's the one where Tom Cruise hangs off the side of a plane. Mission Impossible Fallout comes out, right? What's the major stunt with that? Tom Cruise is the first actor to ever actually perform a halo jump, right? Which a halo jump is basically just basically skydiving at 25,000 feet, right? Right. Actually, watch Mission Impossible Fallout. In my opinion, that was the most boring scene in the whole movie. And as of the recording of this video, we don't know anything about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. But you know what we know about that movie? We all know about that motorcycle jump off the side of a mountain and Tom Cruise opening up the parachute, right? We know about that, but what is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 actually about? We still don't know, and Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is coming out, July 14th, 2023. This is being recorded on February 1st of 2023, so we're about 5 months out. And still, we don't know what Mission Impossible 7 is going to be about, but we know what the big stunt is, and the big stunt is Tom Cruise driving off the side of a mountain on the back of a motorcycle. The second franchise I want to touch on was the Jurassic Park movies, right? The first Jurassic Park comes out, major hit. The Lost World Jurassic Park, I'm going to say this. The book was infinitely better, but the movie does have its fans. And then Jurassic Park 3 comes out, and actually we'll circle back to Jurassic Park 3. So 2015 saw the release of Jurassic World, right? Which, looking back on now, was basically just a shameless reboot of Jurassic Park, just without all of the substance, right? It doesn't have like that ethical quandary of, well, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. Nope, Jurassic World doesn't touch any of that. Jumping over to Rotten Tomatoes, Jurassic World with the critics' consensus. Jurassic World can't match the original for sheer inventiveness and impact, but it works in its own right as an entertaining and visually dazzling popcorn thriller. So, because Jurassic World worked as a popcorn movie, it was a good movie. And guess what happened? Jurassic World is the highest grossing Jurassic Park movie made thus far, with $1,669,963,641 made at the worldwide box office, according to thenumbers.com. Now, what people are gonna often refer to is, but the God damn it, wrong pipe. What people are going to refer to is that, but the critic score fell off with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Here's the critics' consensus for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom adds another set piece packed entry to the blockbuster franchise, although genuinely thrilling moments are an increasingly short supply. So basically, there wasn't enough action in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. That was the big criticism for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Then we get over to Jurassic World Dominion, which the critics' score fell again to only 29%. Jurassic World Dominion might be a bit of an improvement over its immediate predecessors in some respects, but this franchise has lumbered a long way down from its classic start. And here's what the audience has said according to Rotten Tomatoes. It's probably time to let this franchise rest, but between some entertaining action and the fun of seeing members of the original cast reunited, Jurassic World Dominion is a decent enough sequel. Right? So Jurassic World Dominion was sold on the fact of the return of Sam Neill and B.D. Wong. Because I believe Jeff Goldblum returned for Fallen Kingdom. But still, go back to this, right? Jurassic World Dominion might be a bit of an improvement over its immediate predecessors in some respects, but this franchise has lumbered a long way down from its classic start, right? The critics were just saying that now about Jurassic World Dominion and not back when 2015's Jurassic World came out. Now you ask a lot of people today, they will tell you that Jurassic World was a shameless reboot of the first Jurassic Park movie. But you know what? It works in its own right as an entertaining and visually dazzling popcorn thriller, according to Rotten Tomatoes, not me. Now, I said we were going to circle back to Jurassic Park 3. I remember back in 2001, everybody were lambasting Universal for making Jurassic Park 3 and decrying it as nothing more than a cheap cash grab. Now, personally, I do enjoy Jurassic Park 3 for what it is, right? It is a fun creature feature that comes in around like 95 minutes. But that's all it is. It's a creature feature, right? Now, was Jurassic Park 3 made with the sole intent to make money? Yeah, more than likely, because again, the first Jurassic Park movie grossed over $1 billion at the global box office. The Lost World Jurassic Park didn't make nearly as much money as the first one, but still grossed $500 million at the worldwide box office. So was it really that far of a stretch for Universal to basically shit out a third movie in the Jurassic Park series, despite the fact that they didn't need it? Yeah, they were gonna shut out the sequel, but again, audiences back in 2001 were decrying Jurassic Park 3 as nothing more than a cash grab. But then Jurassic World comes out, which was a shameless reboot of the first Jurassic Park, just without all of the substance and the ethics of just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. But if you look at the critics' score, it's Jurassic World can't match the original for sheer inventiveness and impact. That's fair to make, but it works in its own right as an entertaining and visually dazzling popcorn thriller. Now let's look at Jurassic Park 3 at the critics' consensus. Jurassic Park 3 is darker and faster than its predecessors, but that doesn't quite compensate for the franchise's continuing creative decline. So everybody ripped Jurassic Park 3 apart at the time for what it was, a cheap cash grab, but a shameless reboot of the original movie and trying to sell itself as a sequel. No. That one is perfectly fine. Just turn your brain off, bruh. Right? I could make that exact same argument for Jurassic Park 3. Just turn your brain off, bruh. Except that didn't work in 2001, but somehow it worked in 2015. Right? And the third and final franchise that I want to touch on is the Fast and the Furious, right? Who remembers a time when the Fast and the Furious was basically just a ripoff of Point Break, but instead of criminals that were just into surfing, they were criminals that were into street racing. Right? That's all the Fast and Furious was. But again, if you look at the online criticism, right, like especially like when like Fast 5, Fast Furious 6, Furious 7 was coming out, right, arguably the peak of that franchise, what was everyone saying? Oh, the first 3 Fast and Furious movies were terrible, bruh. It didn't start getting good until Fast 5, man. Right? Well, what happened during that time? That happened to coincide with the time that the Fast and Furious franchise was leaning more into action, right? With casting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, right? And Fast 5 was also the highest grossing entry at the time, with $630,163,454 made at the worldwide box office. To put that into comparison, of the first 3 Fast and Furious movies, right? The Fast and Furious released in 2001, Too Fast, Too Furious, and Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. The highest grossing entry was Too Fast, Too Furious, with $236,410,607 made at the worldwide box office, right? And then if we jump over to Rotten Tomatoes, right, critics' consensus for Fast 5, sleek, loud, and over the top, Fast 5 proudly embraces its brainless action thrills and injects new life into the franchise. Right? We then get into Fast and Furious 6, which arguably became even more of an action movie, right? Fast and Furious 6. With high-octane humor and terrific action scenes, Fast and Furious 6 built upon the winning blockbuster formula that made Fast 5 a critical and commercial success. Now let's actually look at Furious 7 with the critics' consensus here. Right here, serving up a fresh round of over-the-top thrills while adding unexpected dramatic heft. Furious 7 keeps the franchise moving in more ways than one. So again, this series did not become a critical darling until it started leaning more and more into into being an action movie. Well, let's get to let's get to the fate of the Furious, right? It starts to fall. That's when it starts to decline critically. And even if we look at F9, right, Fast and Furious 9, everyone is basically now saying, "Oh, that's the one where they took it over the top by having the car bungee rope to the side of a mountain, and then oh my God, they go into space in a Pontiac Fiero and are wearing spacesuits, basically being covered up by duct tape." But the franchise was always getting more and more ridiculous, and everyone kept saying that, "Oh, the series didn't start getting good until Fast 5." But now it's like, "Whoa, this series is kind of going off the rails." But again, everyone kept excusing the fact that it was getting more and more action oriented to the point where, the Fast and Furious series moved on beyond, a group of criminals that just happened to be into street racing to now they are secret government agents, tracking down, cyber terrorists that want to hack all technologies on the frickin' planet. And oh, by the way, Dominic Toretto had a brother that we never mentioned prior to Fast and Furious 9, but for the sake of family, we have to add in Dominic's brother, which nobody knew had existed up to that point. So for everyone that is decrying that the Fast and Furious franchise has gotten way too ridiculous, well, these are the same people that were saying about Fast 5, well, if you just turn off your brain, brah, it's actually a good movie. Fast and Furious 6, leaning even more into action. Oh, just shut your brain off, bro. It's actually a good movie. Furious 7, just shut your brain off, bro. It's actually a pretty decent movie. Jurassic World. Oh, just shut your brain off, bro. It's actually a decent movie. Mission Impossible Fallout, which I argue is basically another shameless. Another shameless reboot of the first movie, even opens the same fucking way with the interrogation and the face swapping and the whole plot line of Ethan Hunt is the mole. But Mission Impossible Fallout, here's what I kept hearing. Oh, just shut your brain off, bro. It's actually a good movie. So I'm going to end the video off with this. I do agree with this article that it's okay to enjoy a bad movie. We all do, right? Like, I unironically enjoy watching, Flash Gordon with Sam Jones. But can I acknowledge that is a bad movie? Yes, it is a bad movie, and that falls under the category of so bad it's good. But where I can't personally stand that mindset, is in these franchises like Mission Impossible, right? If you watch those first 5 Mission Impossible movies, each one of those movies, you can watch all of those movies back to back to back to back, and you'll get a different movie each time. Right? It didn't start and then what started to happen is, hey, all we have to do is advertise the stunts, screw the story. Nobody is really interested in that. So, hey, you want to come watch Tom Cruise jump off the side of a mountain on the back of a motorcycle and open up a parachute? Stay tuned for Mission Impossible 7 coming out July of 2023, right? Jurassic World. Hey, remember when you liked Jurassic Park? Well, here's a shameless reboot that we're going to package together as a sequel that everyone is going to say is good if you just shut your brain off, brah. But then everyone will decry for the sequels as, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is just too boring, and Jurassic World Dominion, that has too much fan service. The Jurassic Park series is going downhill, despite the fact it was going downhill since Jurassic World, but the critics didn't want to fucking admit it. Shh. right? And then the Fast and the Furious franchise. Oh yeah, that started off as a rip off of Point Break, but instead of surfers, it was street racers. But it didn't start getting good until they abandoned that and started making it more of an action movie. And now Dominic Toretto and the gang are secret government agents that are going around the world, because who better to get a secret agents than a bunch of street racers? Yeah. And honestly, I can keep going on and on. I know we've gone on for nearly half an hour, but yeah. Just shut your brain off, brah. Oh, it's just meant to be a popcorn movie, brah. You're overthinking it. I do agree, is incentivizing laziness, because again, what's going to happen? The movies are going to start being made lazier and lazier, but guess what? All of the MCU fanboys are gonna run out to defend that. They're just popcorn movies, bro. You're not supposed to think about them too much, man. Or with Mission Impossible 7, maybe Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, not as good as the other movies. Oh, you know what, man? You're supposed to shut your brain off for the Mission Impossible movies, bro. New Jurassic Park movie comes out, and it's even worse than the Jurassic World movies. Oh man, you just shut your brain off, and it just works, brah. Right? So I'm gonna go ahead and end this right here before I drag this out way longer than it needs to be. I know we've gone for damn near half an hour, but to make a long story short, not meaning to quote South Park, to make a long story short. I am getting sick of that mindset of, just turn your brain off. If you keep this mindset, nothing will get better. And guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end this right here. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.